And we're back with talks of bacterial meningitis. Who's excited? I know everyone's excited because who doesn't want to talk about meningitis? Yay! Okay, let's get into it. Different flavors of meningitis, because there are different flavors of meningitis. Again, signs and symptoms. You have a severe fever. You have inflammation. You have increased white blood cell counts. You have inflammation caused by encephalitis in the brain. Can result in behavioral changes, and death. Not good. Bacterial meningitis is nasty. It's the nastiest of the meningitis. Pathogens and virulent factors caused by all of these fun people. 5 species cause 90% of bacterial meningitis. Neisseria, Streptococcus, the influenza virus, Listeria, and Streptococcus. They are opportunistic members of the normal microbe, also can sometimes cause meningitis. Okay. Neisseria, it's gram-negative. It's known as never mind, meningococcus. Okay, Neisseria. Capsule, lipolycosaccharide, helps the bacteria attach to cells. Neisseria cells without these structures are not virulent, but the capsule protects the bacteria from phagocytosis. Do you remember what phagocytosis is? And to remember my favorite new word, blebbing. You die by blebbing. It's the worst way to die, to bleb. This triggers, remember what it triggers? Things like fever, inflammation, not a shock is not great, and also clotting. I will, hold on. We will get to this, sorry.
Meningococci are commonly carried asymptomatically in the nasopharynx. Virulent, invasive forms of the bacteria may overcome host defenses and adhere to epithelial cells. Mucosal invasion and transcytosis allows entry of the bacteria into the bloodstream. Here, the bacteria may cause life-threatening septicemia as they multiply to high density and shed outer membrane in the form of vesicles or blebs.
They shed their outer membrane.
And cytokines. From the bloodstream, the bacteria can also cross the blood-brain barrier to cause meningitis.
And of course, Novartis is going to save us all from that. Okay, so that was just some pretty pictures of what happens there with meningitis. Here is the outside. This is what your Neisseria meningitis looks like. Streptococcus, it's a gram-positive coccus. It's the leading cause of meningitis in children and the elderly. The capsule, remember that, sheds. Protects the bacteria from digestion of phagocytes. The enzyme and toxins enable the bacteria to counteract immune defenses, and phosphochloride, which actually triggers the endocytosis of cells. It looks like this. They're typically arranged in pairs. Do you see the little pairs there? Okay. Haemophilus influenzae. It's a bacillus. It's an obligate parasite of humans and some animals. It has a capsule that's resistant, again, to phagocytosis. Its stains distinguished by a capsular antigen. I'll show you, it does have a really cool stain. And prior to vaccine, most diseases were caused by H. influenzae type B. Here is what it looks like. That is a cool stain. Like, that is also a microscope unavailable in our lab, but that is a really great stain. Listeria. This is really fascinating because it's by the same guy who did Listerine. So,
in this video, we'll be talking about
listeriosis
and its symptoms. So listeriosis is caused by the bacteria known as Listeria monocytogenes. It was basically discovered by or described by Joseph Lister in 1940s. And it was found that when this particular bacterial extract is injected in a rabbit, it induces formation of monocytes. From the name of Joseph Lister and this phenomena of increased monocytes, it was known as Listeria monocytogenes. Now, Listeria monocytogenes is a bacterial pathogen that is responsible for listeriosis. It is commonly found in soil, water, and in some animals. Listeriosis primarily affects the pregnant women, newborns, and older adults. But pregnant women are at the highest possible risk of this particular bacteria. People with weakened immune system is also vulnerable for infection. So Listeria monocytogenes can be transmitted through contaminated food, such as unpasteurized dairy product, raw meats, and not properly washed vegetables. So these are the key places where Listeria can be there.
Wash
and
food, refrigerate your dairy.
The pregnant woman is at very high risk of Listeria infection, and it can also be transmitted from mother to fetus during the pregnancy, leading to severe consequences. And another fact is it can survive in wide range of temperature, from 1 degree to 45 degrees.
This is probably the nastiest part of Listeria. Is Listeria can grow at a range of temperatures, including refrigeration.
So even in the refrigerator, if you keep your food in cold, let's say 4 degrees centigrade, Listeria can survive there. Okay, Listeria species are basically slender, short, and gram-positive rods. They do not form spores, non-spore forming. Sometimes they can occur as diplobacilli or short chains. But they are avid intracellular parasites. In a moment, we will understand why they are such a strong intracellular parasite. And they are gram-positive, so they would stain dark purple in the gram stain. So obviously, gram staining is the first laboratory analysis for Listeria, but also they produce small colony with narrow zone of beta hemolysis, and they also shows catalase positivity. So basically, they can adhere to the host cell with the help of specific molecules known as internalin, and this can adhere to the cadherin molecules on the host cell. So once it is engulfed by a, let's say, monocyte, or let's say a macrophage, what happens is inside those monocytes or macrophage, they form a phagosome. But Listeria produce specific chemicals or specific proteins known as listeriolysin O, which can lyse the phagosome. It has so once it lyses the phagosome, it is now freely swimming in the cytoplasm of that phagocyte. So what happens is basically in these monocyte or macrophages, they would assemble the actin filament to form an actin tail-like structure, which helps them to propel inside. And they forms a pseudopod-like structure. Eventually, they move from one particular cell to another cell. Listeria produce phospholipase C enzyme, which can damage the plasma membrane of the phagosome, also the plasma membrane of these cells. That is how it can damage the cells. Now, so risk of Listeria monocytogenes involves improper handling of food, hygiene practice problems, etc. So cooking food thoroughly, washing hands, avoiding cross-contamination, these are best preventive measures.
Wash your hands!
Also, pregnant women and other immunocompromised individuals should be carefully consuming food or avoid any kind of like contaminated food. So in adults, it can show flu-like symptom or gastroenteritis, but in case of pregnant women, most prevalent symptoms are flu-like. Severe symptoms occur in case of neonates. So they have granulomatosis in infantiseptica. So basically, they would have granulomatous infection, and there could be preterm birth or sometimes even abortion. So that is why during pregnancy, Listeria infection is a big challenge.
So Listeria is bad, right? It's bad. Listeria is bad. And especially if it's in a pregnant woman, here was essentially it comes in, and it multiplies, it infects the host cell, it gets some like projectile flagellum looking things, and then it burrows into the next cell, into a newly infected cell, and that process continues. Streptococcus, again, Lancefield group B, normal vaginal microbiota in some women. Capsule allows bacteria to evade phagocytosis, and this is what can happen during a vaginal birth. And it can infect the newborn or neonatal. So they're often tested for that. So the Algiceta is acquired during birth. The Listeria is transmitted via contaminated food. So one is acquired during birth, one is transmitted via contaminated food. Other species are transmitted via respiratory droplets. Bacteria is usually spread via the blood to the meninges, hence the name meningitis. Head or neck trauma may also allow entry of the bacteria into the meninges. And diagnosis, treatment, and prevention. Diagnosis is based on symptoms and culturing from the central spinal fluid. Treatment with intravenous antimicrobial drugs, vaccines available for meningitis. Like I said, there was an outbreak at the University of Illinois when I was in college, so I've had like literally 8 meningitis vaccines. So there's vaccines available for the pneumonia, the influenza, and the meningitis. I probably had all of them. Administration of penicillin at birth reduces these neonate episodes if the mother tests positive for meningitis. Individuals at risk for listeriosis should avoid high-risk foods like dairy and things, and just like extra washing of the hands. Leprosy. So signs and symptoms. Non-progressive form of the disease is the tuberculose leprosy, strong cell-mediated immune response. Regular leprosy is a progressive tissue destruction due to bacterial replication in the skin, mucous membranes, and nerve cells. Weakened cell-mediated immune response. Death from leprosy is rare, but it's really deforming. So here's a picture of leprosy. Like, it's not good. You don't want leprosy. Even though you're not going to die, it's bad. It's really bad. Hansen's disease, also a form of leprosy. Microbacterial lepraria is the caustic agent. It's a gram-positive. The mycolic acid in the cell wall is responsible for several characteristics. It has a slow growth rate, protection from the phagocytic lysine.